Good evening, everybody. My name is Master Catchaturians, and I will be presenting The Blind Side for my critical assignment presentation. The film Blind Side is based on a true story, and is about the story of Michael Orr and how he went from poverty to being a draft uh, for the Baltimore Ravens. And he first is introduced in the movie, and he is then uh, has the ability to be enrolled in a Christian school. And when he gets enrolled in the Christian school, he then meets the Tui family, and the Tui family then become a major part in the film. And the Tui family, mainly Leanne, who is the mother, takes a very important role in Michael's life. She really does make a change in his life, and she is the game changer for him because she really does provide him with a home, a stable home, and the opportunity to really grow as a man, as an individual, and she really does help him be successful in the community, and she helps him develop good relationships with his peers, with his different family members, and eventually allows him to become so successful in life. And he has a lot to thank because of her. And so, as mentioned, as the movie progresses, Michael does grow. Michael, of course, struggles at first, but he is able to overcome all the obstacles that he faces. And he then, of course, within the movie, gets adopted by the Tui family. He is given an opportunity to play football, and that football really does lead him to be a star. Football also really develops his sense of family, his sense of loyalty, and that's also thanks to Leanne Tui. And ultimately, it leads him to be drafted by the Baltimore Ravens. So it really is an amazing story of overcoming the odds. And the movie itself has different relationships, especially how Michael Orr has different relationships with different individuals within the movie. But I will focus on Michael Orr's relationship with the Tui family. I believe that's more important, and that's more notable within the movie. To talk about Michael Orr, he does exhibit signs of repression at first. He has a coping method, which is learned from a young age, where he closes his eyes and counts to three. He does show debilitative emotions at first, of course. His behavioral characteristics are neutral. He is self conscious. He doesn't think he belongs among the students or the faculty at his new school. But on the flip side, he does have protective instincts, and that matures and grows even more as the movie progresses. He is very grateful, and he is able to overcome any of the interpersonal conflicts that he faces at first, especially due to his state in the beginning of the movie. As for the relationship that the Tui family has with Michael, Leanne, of course, is very empathetic, and that that is seen from the first time she meets Michael. She really does show that she is a critical and an empathetic listener, and she bonds with Michael very well. And she shares her intentions with her husband, with her family and friends, and with her close circles. SJ, who is Leanne's son, is also the same way. He does take a very expressive role and an active role in Michael's life. And you can see that within the film. Helps him with training, and introduces himself initially when others are reluctant to really be around him. And contrary to what community expected of Leanne, especially of a woman her stature, she really does create an integrated family, and she adopts Michael. So that's against any expectations that the community has or her inner circle. Sean, on the other hand, who is the husband, he's empathetic, but is more passive, you can say, and he takes a second role to Leanne. He does manage it. He supports Leanne's um, decisions to adopt Michael, to be there for Michael, um, but he's not a primary. He doesn't play a primary role in Michael's life. Colin, on the other hand, is the daughter, and she really does not accept Michael at first. She does show signs of stereotype and racial profiling, especially when she's with her friends, but she does get over that and she is able to accept him. Overall, the family does really provide a cooperative relationship for Michael, and they do provide an environment that is supportive, that allows him to grow and to mature, and that is seen throughout the movie, and especially toward the end when he really meets so much success. I do want to talk about two theories that I believe are very relevant to the movie, and they really are reoccurring themes and theories within the movie. First of them is the reflected appraisal theory, which is very relative to Michael Orr's situation. The reflective appraisal theory really does have two aspects, which can be negative and positive. The theory itself, it states that the self a person presents is in large part based on the way others categorize the individual, the roles they expect him or her to play, and the behaviors or traits they expect him or her to exhibit. And Michael does show this in the beginning, of course. We see that in the opening scene. Michael is impoverished, is walking around with worn out clothes. He looks hopeless, he looks sorrowful. Even though he gets accepted into the Christian school, he has a hard time adjusting, and that's something he's not accustomed to. And he has a perception of what they may think of him, of what the white individuals at his school and his faculty might think of him. And that leads him to fear that he won't be able to live up to the expectations or the demands and qualifications that are already in place by the society, by that community. However, that there is a positive appraisal as he meets Leanne. When he meets the Tui family, everything changes for him, especially his relationship with Leanne really does allow him. It allows him to heal, it allows him to mature, it allows him to succeed. And he then sees himself as a winner because Leanne sees him as a winner. Leanne and the family really see him as an important, vital member of the family, and so he starts seeing himself that way, and he gradually begins to develop a resilience. He then develops emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and it really does help him facilitate his emotions so that he can be productive in his life. Um, as I mentioned, this leads him to get a scholarship at the University of Mississippi, and then he is placed on the dean's list because he believes in himself. He is able to do that, and then he is drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, which again is an ultimate sign of how far he's come, of how what he thinks of himself, of him being worthy of this position. The second theory, which I believe is very important, is the theory which relates to Leanne the most, and that is also seen within the movie, and that is the fundamental interpersonal relations orientation, and that's by William Schultz, and that really plays in there's three aspects of that theory, and that's basically it talks about the intrapersonal behaviors within these three aspects, which are inclusion, control, and affection. And inclusion basically states that we feel the need to establish and maintain a feeling of mutual interest with others. And Leanne, of course, shows that from get-go. She's very empathetic. She is very good-willed. She has that nature. And she's inclined to understand and relate with Michael on a personal level. The text notes that when our inclusion needs are satisfied, we develop a sense of enhanced self-worth and feel fulfilled. Now, as is seen in the movie, each time Leanne is able to connect with Michael and really replenish his inclusion needs because he has needs as well, Leanne is really left with a sense of fulfillment and joy. And if you do watch the film, you will notice that that is the case. The second aspect of this theory is control, and this actually plays a major part in Leanne's role. This is a need to establish and maintain relationships one that allow one to experience satisfactory levels of influence and power. Now, Leanne's relationship with Michael fosters the ability for her to mature, to nurture him, and to guide him while he adjusts to his new lifestyle. And she's very instrumental in improving not only his outward appearance, but she does influence his ability to understand and play the game of football better. She teaches him about willingness to tough out any situation, for the sake of family, for the sake of integrity. And ironically, what happens is in their quest to change him and in her quest to influence him, Michael turns to influence her as well and really does change her life and her perspective on things. And she is also very grateful for that. And Michael's loyalty and the love for her and her family really does push her to the limit to really protect him in all cases. And the third aspect of this theory is affection. And affection is talks about the need to give and receive love and to experience emotionally close relationships. And throughout the greater part of the film, Leanne really demonstrates her love for Michael, as is mentioned, and she really does show that by her selfless acts, and in order to ensure Michael's well-being and stability. For example, she gives him a home to stay. She gives him a family to call his own. She stands up for him and protects him when the odds are against him. She takes joy when he's successful. She's sorrowful when he's troubled. And in return for her love, Michael reciprocates that by protecting Leanne and protecting his other family members to the extent of both physically and verbally. And he does take advantage of the opportunities granted him. And he really works hard to make his family proud. And he expresses his gratification both verbally, and he expresses it with physical acts. And as a conclusion, I do feel that this movie really is effective in pointing out the obvious differences and prejudices that exist even in today's society. Leanne's relationship with Michael and vice versa really maps out a great example of how we, as members of different communities and different cultures, how we can lend a hand and a voice to one another in order to stand up for one another, in order to lift one another up. And we learn uh, from the film and from the relationship that in order to establish and maintain healthy interpersonal relationships, we have to learn to have social and emotional intelligence. We need to acquire that. We need to have cultural awareness. We need to have a listening style and the ability that's listed in the Hurrier model. And we need to adhere to roles in society that really encourage mutual growth and understanding. As a final word, if you haven't seen the film, if you have any doubts about whether seeing it or not, I really encourage you to see it. It really is a wonderful film. It really does show how when one is given the opportunity, even against all odds, if they have people around them who encourage them, who motivate them, that they can rise to the occasion, that they can beat all odds. And really, I think it gives us a blueprint on how we can treat others and how we can contribute to others' success. Thank you.